Tôi là viên cha cờ xanh năm lá, anh chị em quay quần ba ba ba. Sài Gòn News nhiều khi vô sung quá, sẽ bật la trình bày đơn ca. Tôi là viên cha cờ xanh năm lá, anh chị em quay quần ba ba ba. Sài Gòn News nhiều khi vô sung quá, sẽ bật la trình bày. Ayo, nói tôi nghe, sao mà bây giờ FA là nhục nhã nè, sao mà giải thích chuyện mình cho người ta nè, sao mà đang chạy xe đứng lại là xe ra nè, sao mà đóng tiền đóng phải cả đóng phim nè, đúng như chuyện thì mình yếm nè, sao mà giờ đám đông vẫn thấy mình cô đơn, còn sao mà giúp người ta làm mấy chút xíu là kê đơn nè, sao mà không biết ý cái thì nhào nhào, sao mà 25 tuổi giấc mơ là chết, ula bala riết tất nhiên là hết nè giờ, sao người ta đang vui ném đá làm sao còn kêu tôi đến phá làm sao mà không đi học phá má làm sao, hết vần còn rap còn pop với lóc drop pum pop nè, đâu còn đọc hết 6 bước Napoli ông cũng mấy cái tiếng Pháp, đêm với hè mua giùm em bên ta bạ xe ba gác hát hotel California Paris by night Hoài Linh Thanh Hà ở phong đi tuy bây giờ vui thì sao nè, 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 đời 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 vui thì sao nè. Ngoài đường mà em vô vã xe, đậu xe trước cửa đường quay nổ khóa nghe mà sao em đi đâu đi làm quanh, sao nên mới còn hứa phán.
Hope everyone's having a good night so far. Yeah, let us know where you're calling from in the chat.
Hello. Wow, Jan vui. Hello Ian.
Sài Gòn đổi mới thật là nhanh, ngó trước ngó sau có chịu đứt phanh, từ sau có sửa xe có chịu bể bánh, kẹt xe thì quẹo hẻm cho nó nhanh. Sáng thứ hai đẹp trời đạp xe về ngã tư quận 3, bắt mình thật kính mời, mà sao giờ bộ em ra tại nhà mới đâu mà ra. 8474 đi khắp trốn cũng là bên nhà, bánh xe này chắc giá đó ngày hôm qua, đứng lại em cô gái.
Ooh, we've got new daily news in the house. And all right, welcome everyone to Accented Dialogues in Diaspora. My name is Viet Thanh Nguyen. I'll be your MC moderator for today. Today we're really excited. We're doing a show on Vietnamese American women in cinema. Tonight's show is called Not Your Blossom, Vietnamese women in cinema. And just for those of y'all who are returning with us, this is not your first Accented show. Welcome back. For those of y'all who this is your first show, welcome to the show. This is hosted by DVAN, the Diasporic Vietnamese Artist Network, whose mission is to celebrate and foster diasporic Vietnamese and Southeast Asian voices that are complex and diverse stories must be championed and passed on to current and future generations. We believe that, as refugees, immigrants, survivors, and descendants, our stories must be heard. So on behalf of the Diasporic Vietnamese Artist Network, thank you so much for joining us tonight for our show. And we'll get started with a couple of shout outs. The mix that y'all were hearing was produced by our very own in-house DJ Puzzle. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us tonight, but if y'all want to, just to get your music inclination sparked, visit us. We are Diasporic Vietnamese Artist Network on SoundCloud. The Accented show, this is going to be our 14th show. We've been doing this for a little bit over a year. We're in our second season, and we're just so glad to have such an incredible amount of guests to have joined us, panelists who have been able to share their insights so intimately with us here in Zoom, sometimes on StreamYard, sometimes on Facebook Live, with all of you all, so that we can kind of cultivate a community here, right? Especially during a pandemic. And one of the purposes of why we put together this show is to also be a fundraiser to raise money for the Diasporic Vietnamese Artist Network. And the way that we do that is every show we have an auction with items that are composed of different items that our guests donate to us. So for today, our special show, we've got some of these items that y'all see here on the screen. Some of the DVAN staff will drop the silent auction link for y'all in the chat, so that if you're interested, you can go to 32options.com/DVAN accented one, create your own account, and then bid on any of the items, so that you might be the one who gets a signed copy of Kieu Chin's new book, Nghệ sĩ Lưu Vong, at your doorstep, after the show. So be sure to check that out. All the proceeds from the fundraiser go towards supporting Vietnamese and Southeast Asian cultural producers, artists, writers. So, and without one more thing before we get started is that we've also got a VIP after party after the show. So if y'all are interested, go to the registration link on our Eventbrite and grab your ticket now. Tickets are $100, but they'll go towards DVAN's good cause, right? And after the show, you'll get a chance for an even more intimate conversation with our guests from tonight. And so, those are my announcements for the beginning of the show. I'll come back to moderate the Q&A, so make sure that you drop any questions you might have in the Zoom Q&A function. But without further ado, I'm very grateful to be the one to introduce our host for Accented and the co-founder of the Diasporic Vietnamese Artist Network. He is the author of the best-selling short story collection, The Refugees, the Pulitzer Prize winning novel, The Sympathizer, and its sequel, The Committed, as well as the children's book, Chicken of the Sea, which he wrote with his Salison. Please welcome y'all, our host, and Viet Thanh Nguyen.
Hey everybody, thanks so much, Philip. It's so good to be back here with you for season 2 of Accented. And it's really awesome to have Kieu Chinh back to celebrate her new memoir. Here it is. It's a beautiful book. We'll talk a little bit more about it during our conversation tonight with Isa Lei and with Jes Vu as well. So let me introduce the first of our guests, actually Kieu Chinh, who needs no introduction. She is a legendary actress. Her career started in the 1950s in Vietnam, where she became the most famous actress in South Vietnam before she became a refugee, came to the United States, and starred in movies such as The Joy Luck Club and Journey from the Fall. Her memoir, Kieu Chinh, Nghệ sĩ Lưu Vong, An Artist in Exile, has just been published with an English translation forthcoming this November 9th. Kieu Chinh, welcome back to Accented. So good to have you again.
Thank you, Viet Nguyen. Hello, everybody. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
So we'll be talking about Kieu Chin's legendary career and the theme of not being a lotus blossom. That's the theme music. Philip, I miss DJ Puzzle so much. Hopefully he'll come back for another episode with us. His mixes are always fantastic. Our next guest is Isa Lei, the Executive Director of Orange County's Vietnamese American Arts and Letters Association, one of the country's premier arts organizations dedicated to Vietnamese Americans. She is also one of the co-founders of Viet Film Fest, the largest film festival in the world outside of Vietnam, dedicated to Vietnamese cinema. Welcome, Isa.
Thank you, Viet. I'm glad to be here today. I'm excited. Thank you.
As I mentioned, or as I was about to mention, besides talking about Kieu Chin's memoir and her career, we're also going to be talking about this theme, Not Your Lotus Blossom, representations of Vietnamese and Asian women in Hollywood for the past few decades. So Kieu Chinh has a lot to say about that, I think. But so does our third guest, Jes Vu. She's the communications manager for CAPE, the Coalition of Asian Pacific Americans in Entertainment, which advances representation for Asian American and Pacific Islander creators and executives in Hollywood. She also served as one of the story and cultural consultants for Disney Animation's Raya and the Last Dragon as part of their Southeast Asia Story Trust. Welcome, Jes, to Accented.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Last but not least, we have our resident mixologist, Thuy Phan. She's here to tell us about our cocktail of the episode, which looks fantastic as always. And I think she's coming to us from Massachusetts.
Yes, I am. Hi, Viet. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here with you all. And I am calling from Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. So for tonight's signature drink, I made this drink, you can see, called The Leading Lady, in honor of our theme of the evening of women in cinema, also in honor of Vietnamese Women's Day, which was yesterday. So in this drink, which is a spin-off of the Tom Collins, there's grapefruit juice, gin, lemon, sparkling water, and some rose water and jasmine tea for some of that floral flavor for our women here today. And just a couple of tips that I learned in making this that will enhance the drink for you if you want to increase the bubbliness and crispness. Make sure your sparkling water is ice cold from your fridge. And when you're mixing to prevent over dilution, pour all the non-sparkling water ingredients over the water. So there's no need to stir at that point. So if you're interested in seeing more recipes like this, they're on my Instagram, but even better, they're on the DVAN membership portal online. So I would definitely check that out if you're a member. So thank you so much for having me here tonight, and cheers to everyone.
Cheers. If you have a drink, please toast our guests and our resident mixologist. Here's to another episode of Accented.
Cheers. Thanks.
Tui, I swear one day I'm going to have you make a drink for me in person. It'll be like one of the best days of my life after having seen these. Only for having made them badly myself at home.
The next time I can get over to California, I'll make you one.
That's a promise. Hey, before we get started, though, I want to welcome all our other guests to the show. That's you out there coming from all over the world. We have people coming from Montreal. That's Duan Giang Phan. I hope I got to pronounce all the accents right. If you give me the accents, I can pronounce Vietnamese names correctly, but if I don't see them, it can be a challenge for me. Minneapolis, Boston, San Diego. From Bermuda, I want to make a shout out to Lauren Anders Brown coming to us from Bermuda. Might be the first time we've had somebody coming from there. Irvine, San Francisco, Westminster. We always have a lot of people from Westminster. Boulder, Colorado, Houston, Dallas. 2 people from Sydney, Australia, Karina Huang and Helen. Los Angeles, Les Sipin, one of my former students, I believe. Hello. Nguyen Viet Daily News with Nguyen Nguyen. Sherman Oaks, I believe, and so that is just like a fabulous group of people. Thanks so much for being here with us. And let's start with Kieu Chin's legendary career. I want to start with Jes and with Isa. Can you talk about the importance of Kieu Chin's career in movies, both in Vietnam and in the United States? Isa, why don't we start with you?
Sure. When I first organized the first cinematic event for the Vietnamese American Arts and Letters Association, VALA, that was back in 2002. And the first person I thought of was Kieu Chinh for sure. When we talk about Vietnamese cinema, immediately we think about Kieu Chinh. I guess because she's the only one who's the first generation Vietnamese American who continue her passion, continue her career even after she left Vietnam. And in Vietnam, she had an outstanding career as an actress and a producer. I learned about this through newspapers and literature in the Vietnamese media. I learned about how she established Giao Chỉ film and produced her box office hit is the Người Tình Không Chân Dung, or the English title is Warrior, Where Are You? And she represented the South Vietnam in many film festivals around the world. So it's so important to have a figure in the art, and she is the when you talk about Vietnamese cinema, the first person I thought of was Kieu Chinh.
I think that's right. I think when a lot of us think about Vietnamese cinema from South Vietnam before the 1970s, Kieu Chinh is the first person we think of. That's absolutely right. Jes, how did you come about getting acquainted with Kieu Chinh in the movies?
I guess to be honest, I think there was a phase like when I was first exploring Asian American cinema, and obviously I have to explore my own community. And so my first exposure to Kieu Chinh was through Journey from the Fall. Like, if that wasn't obvious, and for me it was seeing you don't really get to see Vietnamese representation on screen, and I think from there, I was exploring like what these actors did in the past. And so from there, I looked up Gokyu's history, and I mean, it's kind of amazing. Like she was working with Hollywood, you know, prior to coming over here. You know, she was working with people like Burt Reynolds, for instance. I think it was in Operation CIA, which is like, you know, this is history, but it's even just beyond Hollywood films. Oh, there you go.
That's a picture in Gokyu's memoir with Burt Lancaster.
Yeah. So for me, that's really, for me, it made a real big impact. Just there, and I will say there's just so much arts history in our community that's like just missing due to the, you know, conflict that happened in Southeast Asia. And to see Gokyu's legacy carry over to the US is, you know, played a real big impact on me. So.
Yeah, and as for me, my first exposure to Kieu Chinh in terms of actually seeing a performance of hers was in the Joy Luck Club. I'm sure that's true for a lot of us. You know, the Joy Luck Club is also a very important book for me. It was the first novel I read by an Asian American writer with Asian American characters. And then Wayne Wang, a Chinese American director, made that movie, The Joy Luck Club, in about 1994, I think. And lo and behold, amongst all these Chinese American actresses, we had a couple of Vietnamese actresses, France Nguyen and Kieu Chinh. So it was amazing. The movie was amazing, and then, you know, terrific to see Kieu Chinh in that movie. So Kieu Chinh, you know, it's such a beautiful memoir. Congratulations. I mean, it's a beautiful book, and it's chock full of really fascinating photographs and archival material from your career and your family life. We saw the photo of you and Burt Lancaster in Operation CIA, and here's you and a film poster of a Yank in Vietnam, which was, I think, the first movie I'd heard about, the earliest movie I heard about featuring you. What year was Yank in Vietnam, and how did you start your career as an actress back in the 1950s?
Viet, thank you so much for your kind introduction, and thank you, Isa and Jes, for your kindness. Thank you so much. A Yankee in Vietnam was produced in 1962, and I started my career on my first movie in 1957 in the Vietnamese production called Hồi Ký Kiều Chinh. The producer was our former last ambassador, Bùi Diễm. But before that, I was discovered by the famous Hollywood director Joseph Mankiewicz. When Mr. Mankiewicz and his team went to Vietnam preparing to shoot the movie The Quiet American, and they discovered me. They want me for the film, but unfortunately, at that time I would just get married early. I was only 18, and my parent-in-law would not allow me to be in film business. And you know, at that time, film are so new to our country, and according to our culture, we are not very favored about actors, actresses. So I missed that opportunity. But my next luck is Mr. Bùi Diễm invited me to be in the lead movie called Hồi Ký Kiều Chinh, and my family accepted because I was playing a Buddhist nun. So they make sure that there's no love scene or anything in the story. So that movie was started in 1957, and after that, I was continuously, you know, working in many other movies. The very first American movie was A Yankee in Vietnam, 1962, and following was the CIA operations in 1964 with actors Burt Reynolds. Yes.
So at what point were your parents okay with you having a career as an actress in love scenes? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means in Vietnam exactly, but they say, okay, you know, she's an adult. She can do what she has to do.
Well, from the very beginning, they're not, my parent-in-law not comfortable with their daughter-in-law to become a movie star. But after the movie that I act as a Buddhist nun, they feel that, okay, she, this is a good story, good movie. And they also see that from after the movie was success, I just come back home as a normal daughter-in-law. Is nothing changed that I work in the movie. So they feel day after day, they feel comfortable that I choose the acting career. And so I was continuously working one after another in many movies in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a lot about the kinds of constraints that actors and actresses have faced in Hollywood. I didn't anticipate hearing about the constraints that you faced in Vietnam with your own in-laws, and I assume there were other kinds of issues, but we'll get to that as well. But first I want to turn back to Isa and to Jes, because the theme of tonight's show, besides celebrating Kieu Chin's legendary career, is this idea of no longer being your lotus blossom. So let's backtrack a little bit. Isa, what does that mean to you? What is the lotus blossom stereotype that we're fighting against here?
Well, it's Hollywood has certain stereotypes for Asian American women. So they look at us like, okay, we are either lotus or we are either dragon ladies. There are not many representations out there for Asian American for us. So it's the same for Vietnamese Americans. So it's important to build a platform to feature more stories for us, from our culture, from our people. I think it's very important to bring out the stories, to have the representation of Vietnamese Americans in the mainstream media. So I think the Film Fest is one of the platforms that we built for that purpose.
So my Lord Huang says, I love seeing Kieu Chinh on an episode of Dynasty. I think she played a nun or a nurse who rehabbed an amnesiac Stephen Carrington. She stole the scene, of course. Kieu Chinh, do you remember that role? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I do, Viet. Yes. Talking about stereotype, of course, there are always stereotypes, even from Vietnam or here. It not happened to Vietnamese community, but it happened to many other minority ethnic group too. But I have to say that I was very lucky that I portray many different characters and from different nationality. I play Korean lover in Mesh with Alan Alda, and I play the Chinese lover in The Letter with Lee Remick, and I play a Cambodian mother from The Girl Who Spelled Freedom, and I even play a princess of India in the movie Evil Within, and then in the Joy Luck Club. So I was very lucky that I was get out of that stereotype. But talking about stereotype, of course, there is very strongly for years now. After the Vietnam War, there was many books, many movies written and theme about Vietnam theme. And if we read those books and the theme, we see they are from the point of view of outsider. They see Vietnamese women, they talk about Vietnamese women, either they are peasant or they are bar girl. But hey, even we are in war, but there are culture, they are human being. So I hope that that stereotype would be off soon, seen after the Joy Luck Club, the very first Asian movie story written by Amy Tan about all Asian actors. That was a kind of the pavement of Asian movie in Hollywood, and then it had to wait 25 years later to become to another successful movie, the Crazy Rich Asian. And I think that we have to move faster about those stereotypes. I hope that our people, our writer, you, Viet Nguyen, and other, we have to write our own story. We have to do our own story to tell our culture, our people, especially the women. So I am looking forward to have more stories about Vietnamese women, about the real people, about the real life. We are not only peasant, we are not only bar girl or prostitute, and we are people. And nowadays we are in 21st century. We are all the same. We are human beings. Don't talk about different languages or different color of skins. We are people.
I remember the last time you were on the show, Kieu Chinh, you talked about the Alan Alda episode of MASH, where you had an interracial relationship with Alan Alda, and it drew controversy from the American audience who watched that show. So I think in some ways there has been obviously some progress. You know, Jes, I'm curious about you. Kieu Chinh mentioned obviously that when it comes to Vietnamese people, we've been identified with the Vietnam War in the American imagination. Many Hollywood movies have been made about the Vietnam War, and Vietnamese people don't have the best roles in these kinds of movies. I'm wondering from your perspective, I think you're probably the youngest person on this panel. You know, growing up, did you watch some of these movies? Did you see some of these images of Vietnamese people? What kind of an impression, especially when it comes to the representations of Vietnamese women, what kind of an impression did that leave on you, and how did it shape you into becoming the person that you are, working now in entertainment and working on the cause of representations for Asian Americans?
Well, I don't like Vietnam War films, so I'll start with that. And there seems to be a revival of them coming out. Like I just know there's a lot of films in the works, like Peter Farrelly's Beer Run film that's set in Vietnam, which I know shot. But even just to like, so you can see we're always like attached to trauma or war, and then it's like crying Vietnamese women, upset Vietnamese women, their children are being killed off. It's just like all this horrible stuff. And, you know, I guess to be like a bit more pessimistic, like, yeah, there's things that are going forward, but I mean, it's still happening. And I did like the show in the first season, but This Is Us kind of also did that, in one of their seasons where it was, and I know the person who played the role, but it's still playing on the same tropes, and even going to more of like a broader, like in terms of the Asian American community, we're talking about the Lotus Blossom and the Dragon Lady stereotype. It's still happening. Like, I know projects that are in production. I can't say, I'm not going to drop their names, but you will find out soon that still go into the whole One Giant Chinatown episode in movie format. So, which shows, like Kieu says, we have to create our own stories. And if there's anything like really positive that I have to say, is that we're seeing more of our community, not in just the Asian American community, but in our community, there are more writers and there's more voices behind the scenes. And that's really where we need people who are in the gatekeeper positions. We need people who are writing on the page, because otherwise, like, and it will still happen, like regardless of our own numbers, but we just need to keep having more people behind the scenes to say no.
You reminded me that when I was growing up watching TV in the 1980s, every cop show had to have its Chinatown episode, right? It's like every police show, cop show, they always had to go to Chinatown. That was the only time you were likely to see Asians appear, and it was always bad because like the guys were always gangsters dealing drugs or whatever, and the women were like prostitutes, as Kieu Chinh said, or they had to be rescued by the detectives or the cops and so on and so forth. And it's a shame it's still happening today. And you're absolutely right. We don't just need the actors and the actresses; they're the glamorous faces. We need everybody else working in the industry. Contact Isa, contact Jes for what those other opportunities might look like. Before we talk more about Hollywood and TV and film today, Kieu Chinh, I'm just curious about Vietnam and Vietnamese film industry. I think much of our audience may not know that much about it. You are, however, a veteran of that film industry. I mean, what was it like to make movies in Vietnam from the 1950s to 1975. Can you give us a little bit of a picture of what that life was like for you? And I'm assuming there were just more opportunities because it was all Vietnamese people everywhere making these movies. So we didn't have the stereotypes that we're talking about now, but maybe there were other kinds of challenges that you faced with the Vietnamese film industry over those 2 or 3 decades in Vietnam.
Well, it was a very difficult time for all of us, not even in movie, but for any other, because we were in war. Our country is a small country. The population was not so big, and yet the country has been divided into 2 parts, North and South. So I've grown up in the South, and I'm working in the movie industry in the South from the very beginning of the industry started. We don't have big production due to limited of audiences, but somehow we did try so hard to be able to continuously producing movie. We try to catch up with other Asian countries, and we were doing quite well before 1975. And I myself, I have my own movie company. I produce movie and sending to Asian Film Festival, and we were upbeat until 1975. Suddenly, the Saigon fell into communist, and the movie industry just break apart, and that is really a shame because we were about the rising the movie industry. It was about rising. So I still think that I hope the young generation now making movie, just like the movie Journey from the Fall. Even the young generation, Ham Chen was very young. He came here, he was only a few years old, but his first production right away, he's thinking of Vietnam. And he did a very successful movie, Journey from the Fall, brought home 28 awards around the world. So I have a hope that the young generation of movie makers will continue to write, to produce, to direct more stories about Vietnam, so that we can show to the world that talking about Vietnam is not talking about the war all the time. Talking about the country, talking about the culture, about the people, and about their culture. That's what I'm looking for. And I hope you will do it. You will start it, Viet. You are the Pulitzer Prize winner writing. So I hope that younger generation like you are would bring more of culture, introduce our culture, our movie, especially about women to the world.
Well, HBO is adapting The Sympathizer for television, which have a lot of roles for Vietnamese and Vietnamese American and Vietnamese diasporic actors and other people who want to get involved. And we're waiting for permission to see if we can shoot in Vietnam. Unfortunately, it is about the war, but we're trying to do it in a different way than to repeat American perspectives and focus on Vietnamese perspectives and what we've done to each other. You mentioned Ham Jun, who was my housemate for a few years while he was editing The Rebel, another landmark Vietnamese diasporic movie. But Ham, had to go back to Vietnam to kick off his film career. He shot Journey from the Fall in, I think it was Thailand. But then after that, he's returned to Vietnam to make a career for himself as a director. So Jes and Isa, I'm wondering, how are things today for Vietnamese and Asian American women actors in Hollywood? Do some of them, like Ham, feel the need to go to Vietnam to have more opportunities? And if so, do they actually have better opportunities and roles, or do women also face challenges in the Vietnamese film industry?
May I interrupt it here a little bit?
Absolutely.
Congratulations that about the sympathizer would go to the return to a movie. Congratulations, very proud of you. Okay, back to Isa.
Thank you. And I just have to say, my son, who's 8 years old, does not care, but he does care that Tony Stark will be, as you see here, in the Sympathizer adaptation from HBO. So we'll see. And if they actually make this in Vietnam, I'm dragging him to Vietnam with me so he can feel his Vietnamese roots. All right, Isa, Jes, how are things today for Vietnamese and Asian American women actors in Hollywood? And do they still have a need to go to Vietnam, and what kind of challenges might they face there?
Yeah, I don't know any actors or actresses that I think I know a few, but an example would be Kathy Nguyen. Kathy Nguyen, she starred in Passport to Love, directed by Victor Vu, and Để Mai Tính, directed by Charlie Nguyen. Fool for Love is the English title. Kathy was born here, and she started her acting career here, but she went to Vietnam and started to star in a lot of movies, in several movies, and won acting awards even. And then she now started in acting school. But I'm not sure if many actors or actresses moving back there, as many as the directors, like you said, Ham Tran or Victor Vu and Charlie Nguyen, they also moved back to Vietnam and worked there. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think language might be a barrier for the actresses if they want to go to Vietnam and start a career there, among many other things. Yeah. Jes, do you have any?
I mean, language might not be a barrier because I've definitely heard stories where people have gone to Vietnam and they're like, you have this amount of time to tune up your Vietnamese, good luck. But on the Hollywood end, which is where I'm more familiar with, I think it has been a lot better. Like, and if we're talking about Vietnamese women specifically, I can name a handful of people who, I can name a handful of people who are doing really well. Like Viet Tran was on MacGyver, and she was playing an explicitly Vietnamese American character. Jackie Lai is doing well. Diane Doan is in Warrior, which has a 3rd season, and it's with Dustin as well, as you can see here. I'm trying to think. Jolie Huang, like there's a lot of young actors too that are like on the rise, like Jolie Huang Rappaport, Talia Tran, Telsey Huynh. So like it's, and I mean, and then of course the big ones, Kelly Marie Tran, Hum Dao, there's someone else that I can't, Lana Condor, of course, and these guys, a lot of them are also trying to do stuff behind the scenes too, whether it's writing or producing, in order to create like stories about us as well. And yes, they're playing characters that might not always be their ethnicity, but when they're in control, that's when they actually, like, I know some of these guys personally, or know people who know them, and I'm hearing like what they're doing as like decision makers, which is going back to my earlier sentiment is like, we need people behind the scenes. So it's incredible to see just like the change, especially even in the last few years, I would say.
Absolutely. I mean, most of the names you mentioned,
I'm
I actually
very,
don't know them. So that's really great, right?
I'm very, very inspired by Kelly Marie Tran, actually, her story and her struggles and everything that she had to go through to in order to achieve what she has today. So actually, Viet Film Fest this year is going to present the Inspiration Award to Kelly Marie Tran, yeah, who voiced the Disney animation Raya and the Last Dragon, which will be played at the end of the festival this year. Yeah, I'm very proud of Kelly Marie Tran.
Me too.
And she's doing a lot of producing as well. Like, it's pretty incredible to see.
Right?
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about Viet Film Fest in just a moment, and hopefully, you know, we will see a memoir from Kelly Marie Tran in 30 years or however. You know. Nowadays, people are writing memoirs when they're like 15 years old, so maybe she'll write it next year. But typically, you know, you wait until you have a very long career to write your memoir. So, Kìu Chinh, you have your memoir now, this beautiful, beautiful book, and so you could have written a memoir 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Why did you wait so long to write this memoir?
Well, first of all, I'm not a writer. So I'm writing my memoir just like a kind of langage parlant, which is speaking language. Well, I think that I have to go through all the experiences from war to become refugees, and from north to south and to America as refugees. It's about time that I want to write something to for my family, for my children, for my friends, and for my readers. Actually, I wrote the pages years ago. That wherever I go, I just keep some pages. Some pages I wrote in France. Some pages I wrote in China when I made the movie The Joy Luck Club, and some pages I wrote in Canada, everywhere. And sometimes I wrote in my backyard in the garden, but it just pile up for the one box of paper. And I've been too busy traveling around the world. I'm working hard all the time. All the time I'm busy until last year when the COVID-19 started. I cannot travel anymore, and I've been locked down. So what else can I do but look back into those pages that I have wrote, and then I start putting together. And very lucky, I met my young friend, the poet Trịnh Ý. He helped me to edit, like my editor. So we worked together and put back the pages for a memoir. May I take this opportunity to say thank you, poet Trịnh Ý, and I'm very happy that my memoir have been so welcome wherever I go. I had my first book signing in Washington D.C. last month, and then after that I have the book signing in Houston, Texas, and then right here in Orange County. Very success. The bookstore mentioned that it never happened like that before. That actually they announced that I will be there only 2 hours from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock for signing, but people line up since 10 a.m. and waiting for the book. And there are some people driving all the way from Sacramento, 5 o'clock in the morning. He drove down and just to have a book and then drive back at the same day. And people drive from San Diego, from Las Vegas, and nowadays I have been so busy, never before in my life, that I received so many calls, so many emails, so many texts that, oh, I'm from Vietnam, how come I have your book? I'm from Australia, can you send me a book? All over around the world. I'm very happy about that. And I am having my English version coming out on the 6th of November. The reason I have another friend, Ian Nghĩa Bùi, to translate it, my book into English, because I want my book go further than the Vietnamese community. For those for non-Vietnamese speaking, and also for younger generation who doesn't read Vietnamese, so they can understand what their older generation have went through. From I am a kind of living witness of our history that went through 3 wars, from the Second World War in Hanoi to the Vietnam War, and then the American War in Vietnam. So I witnessed the French move out of our country. I witnessed the American move in our country, and so many things happen during this period of time. So I think that I have the duty to tell a story from an insider about what I have went through as a Vietnamese woman in war and as an artist, and how the life of a refugee. I call myself an exile at that time. Therefore, the book is I would like to share the story with all of you.
Right. Yeah, and the fact that people were turning out and waiting for hours, just is testimony to the fact that, number one, you are our number one Vietnamese star, but number two, that Vietnamese communities, Vietnamese American communities, have a deep hunger for these kinds of representations, and your career has been a testimony to that. And of course, we all want to be working, doing something we love for as long as you have been. So thank you for that, for the gifts you have given us through your performances. Now,
Thank you, sir.
You're both involved in community and media organizations that promote Vietnamese or Asian American representations, and we've seen, again, how important that is to our communities and our audiences. So this is a non-glamorous but really important work that's needed to build a supportive community for actors, writers, and filmmakers. Can you talk about your respective organizations and how they've made a difference for representations and opportunities for Vietnamese and Asian American women in film and TV? Let's start with you, Jes. You're working with CAPE, the Coalition of Asian Pacific Americans in Entertainment.
Yes, so I technically started in April, but I've been associated or I've worked alongside CAPE for a long time. We're in our, I think, 30th year already, and we're going to go about our 10th year for our writers program. Basically, we do a lot of stuff, whether it's consulting, talent development, or just even promoting films. And you are right, it is not a glamorous job, as even though people might not perceive it otherwise. Especially at CAPE, we're only a team of 4 women, but we do the work of double our team, and it was only 2 women for a long time. I guess I could just start with our up there. Yep, there's Michelle, Jes, not to be confused with myself. It doesn't help that our names rhyme, and our coordinator Rianne. So these are the team that make up the core staff at CAPE. We are doing a lot. We just finished our leaders program, which focuses on mid-tier, those are the ladies, the mid-tier executives, decision makers, essentially, who greenlight projects, which is really what we need more. We just, closed our submissions and started our working on our CAPE animations program, and then we just opened submissions for our writers program, which is going on its 10th year. Where we work with emerging writers and hopefully get them staffed or get them opportunities from there. So you can learn more about our organization at capeusa.org.
I just want to say, the mention of writers is really important. I attended the writers' room for the Sympathizer, and the amazing thing is almost all of the writers are Asian American women. I don't think that would have been possible 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, but now because of the pipeline that we've been building and through organizations like CAPE and other kinds of media organizations and the encouragement of people who've been mentoring their fellow Asian Americans, we've reached a moment where we can have 100% Asian American shows and hopefully one day 100% Vietnamese American shows as well. And Isa, your career as an organizer has really been devoted to making that a reality with the Vietnamese American Arts and Letters Association and the Vietnamese International Film Festival, or the Viet Film Festival. So yeah, tell us more about the work that you've been doing there.
Yeah, so a little bit about VALA, which is Vietnamese American Arts and Letters Association, which is a 501c3 organization that's based in Orange County. Just like CAPE, is run primarily by women. We have a 6 board member board, and we have I'm the executive director, but I'm a volunteer. My day job is a pharmacist, and but I joined VALA in 2000. And what we do is we carry out artistic events for the communities with the mission of connect and enrich the communities through Vietnamese art and culture. So Viet Film Fest is our biggest project. Every year we have Viet Film Fest. And we also have art workshop for the youth. And we also have a filmmaking workshop for the youth, and we have exhibitions. We have book signings. I don't know if you remember book signings of Andrew Lam and Monique Chung years ago when we had our office in Sanana, and you came and also spoke that day. And we had so what we do is again, we feel that, well, I personally feel that we need more stories out there in the mainstream media, because we don't see a lot of our stories out there. We only see Vietnam War. We only see we see such a narrow narratives for Vietnamese Americans. And so I'm not an artist. So when I first started with VALA, I had to learn about. I love to listen to artists, because I listen to their inspirations, and I love to hear their thoughts, and to me that's so inspiring, and so I think that is important to build platforms for the artists to come together and share their stories, share their experiences with the audience. I think that's very important. And I see that more and more second generation Vietnamese Americans coming to VALA for the programming, and because they want to learn about their culture, and they want to learn about even their family stories, because we have workshops that involve different generations sharing their stories. So I think arts is so important to the communities.
Absolutely right, and also the nurturing of new generations. You know, like our generation, not ours, but my generation, you know, that was born in Vietnam, came as refugees. We were indelibly shaped by the Vietnam War, so there's no doubt that so much of our writing and our concerns have been around that past, that history, that war. But I don't anticipate that Vietnamese Americans who are being born today, like my son or my daughter, will, when they become artists, be making movies or writing books about the Vietnam War. I hope not. I hope we'll get to a point where we can realize so many of the other stories that are important to us. You know, Adele Ray in the chat says it's hard to get stories developed without financial support. She didn't phrase that as a question. I'll make it a question that hopefully you can answer after the break. But if you have questions for our audience, for our panelists, I'm almost done with my drink, by the way. It's when it comes falling over my questions. If you have questions for our panelists, put them into the Q&A. I'm saving my last question now for Kieu Chinh about her memoir. And Kieu Chinh, this question is, what is the most surprising thing that readers will learn from your memoir? Could be about Burt Reynolds, could be about somebody else, but what's the most surprising thing that people will learn reading your memoir? Muted. You're muted. Kieu Chinh, you're muted.
Well, Viet ơi, that is a very difficult question. You know, I don't know how people feel about when they read my memoir, but what I try to share was not about the actress, about the glamorous life of an actress, but I am also a Vietnamese in exile, and like millions of other Vietnamese, my life has been up and down. There was a good moment, there was sad moment, and I would like to share everything so that the younger generation would see how a woman in my generation have went through the war, the difficulty of the trying to keep the culture, and yet to live with the world as I am, traveling around the world and working with Hollywood and trying to keep the culture. So I would like to share that, and people would see that I have many struggles in my life. People might see after 60 years in motion picture industry, there was a lot of article written about me. I went through a lot of TV interview, but people only see that. Oh, she's a movie star, or she's working on that famous movie, or she received these awards and things like that. But people do not know that I have so many struggling moments. And may I share a little bit? There was once I tried to commit suicide because I feel so desperate, because I feel so lonely, because I feel so difficult for a woman to have a very lonely life in this in this foreigner land. Of course, I'm now U.S. citizen, but somehow you still feel that, you know, I still miss Vietnam. I still thinking that I am a Vietnamese, and every time I'm thinking of the country, right away the word Vietnam is out there because, of course, because of Vietnam was the land where my great grandparent, my parents have died there, and where I was born, and my children was born there. So it's I mean the life of a woman like me has been torn between in many different directions. I try so hard. Every time I felt, I try to stand up, keep my head straight, and move on. So that is what I want to share in my memoir. So I hope that people who read my book, they would understand that it is not about an actress and all the glamorous life or the actors or the famous people that I have met, but I also have the other side of that glamorous life. And people would find out that I'm just a normal woman. I'm just a simple woman. That there are good, there was bad, and time, good time, bad time happen. I'm just like a normal people. Just like many other women that I want to share.
Well, I think that's really inspiring because, when we look at successful people, famous people, we only see the glamour, as you mentioned, the stories that make it to the public. But it takes a lot of hard work, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of struggle for most people to attain that kind of success. And for those people who attain success without struggle, I hate you. But for most of us, we have to really work at it. And then, I'm really, really sorry to hear about the suicidal feelings, but thank you for acknowledging that because issues of mental health, depression, suicide are so prevalent, so common in Asian American communities, especially Vietnamese refugee communities, given everything that we've been through. And yet culturally, Asian Americans and also obviously Vietnamese people and specifically just are not inclined to talk about these issues in public. We want to keep it behind closed doors, keep it within.
Right, right.
And we need to talk more about these kinds of things because there are so many people, so many families struggling with mental health and the consequences of that. So thank you for bringing that up. We will have a chance to talk more about all of these issues and your questions right after the break. And I'm going to pass it off to our incredible MC, Philip, to lead us into the break.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Viet, and to all of our guests. Thank you for the incredible and insightful conversation. For all of y'all that are joining us today here on Zoom, if you wouldn't mind dropping your questions in the Q&A, I think it's like right there. Button, we'll get to them right after the break. We've got a couple of announcements, but until then, we're gonna go on a short intermission. We'll come back with a trailer for the Viet Film Fest, and we hope that for a couple of minutes you enjoy this song written by Tieng Do called Viet Kiều Blues, which we'll play for y'all right now. So see y'all in a couple minutes, drop your questions and enjoy your break.
Miss Saigon is giving me the eye. She sees through my guilt-ridden smile and offered her a memory. She shook her head and lit a 555. The Cyclo man looks at me from head to toe. You sure don't look like no Tebalo. Do you have enough for a full ride? Or should I take you with a local scope? Memories flow, fireflies glow, but I still don't know how I wound up here in someone else's shoes, thinking about the Viet Kiều Blues. Then I started feeling kind of blue. As the night fell upon the avenue, she said, take this pill and swallow your pride. Let's sing right on my dream too. We went down to the Saigon River. The poet, the pimp, and the believer. Was it the moon, the water, or the night? But home has never felt sweeter. Memories flow, fireflies glow, but I still don't know how I wound up here in someone else's shoes, dreaming up the Viet Kiều Blues. Now I'm packing my non-profit boots, my photographs and my expatriate roots. She gave me some tea and a favorite hat. Don't forget to dry clean your Viet Kiều suit. Memories flow, fireflies glow, but I still don't know how I wound up here in someone else's shoes. Memories flow, fireflies glow, but I still don't know someone else's shoes, drinking away the Viet Kiều blues.
Ooh. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that song by Tiendo. And we dropped the link in the SoundCloud so that y'all can send it to your parents and, you know, jam out with them. It has me feeling, I don't know if y'all ever watched Hey Arnold, right? But you know, there's this character on Hey Arnold called Mr. Huyn, and he sings this country song called The Simple Things, and it has that kind of vibe. So definitely would recommend. A couple of announcements before, you know, we come back from our break. One of the things that we're so proud to have that was created by DVAN is this DVAN initiative at San Francisco State University in the College of Ethnic Studies, known as DVAN at SFSU, which is designed to advance mutual educational goals and the promotion of Vietnamese American diasporic literary arts and other cultural productions through the mentorship and support of SFSU undergraduates and humanities in the arts. One of the ways that we do that is we receive some funding for an endowment, and that endowment turned into the Kieu Chinh scholarship that we are offering at SF State for the first time this semester. So if you all know any students at San Francisco State who might be interested, please direct them to the Kieu Chinh scholarship endowment application website and the contact, so they can also send a quick Zoom message to me. But on the other hand of that, if you're interested in making a donation to the scholarship endowment so that we can continue to support our students and the next generation of leaders, scholars, activists, artists who will be continuing this work for generations to come, please visit give.sfsu.edu/KCE to donate to the scholarship endowment. Another quick fundraising plug from me is that if you visit 32auctions.com/DVAN accented one, I wanted to, you know, we just kind of glossed over some of the items that we have available for y'all, right? I know y'all are looking for the English version. I see you, Ian. You know, the English version of Kieu Chin's book, which is not out yet. But, you know, instead of that, or other than that, while you're waiting for the English version to come out, if y'all visit 32 auctions, I think the instructions are in the chat too. You will need to make an account and then log in with that account. If you hit view all items, you'll get a sense of what we're putting up for bid, right? So a couple of the things that are available, I want to highlight this for all of those who are in SoCal and can, you know, drive to Westminster Mall or live close to Little Saigon, is that there are a couple of drive-in screenings that are happening, Raya and the Last Dragon and the Paper Tourist. And we've got a couple of tickets available for bidders who are located in SoCal, right? And in addition to that, from the Viet Film Fest, we've got their VIP package, virtual package at a discounted rate, right? So if y'all bid on this, you have a chance. You'll get 2 VIP USA virtual price passes for, I think, the price of 1. You'll have access to this online filmmakers lounge, to all the virtual screenings, and an illuminated recipes project recipe book, and a Viet Film Fest /Vala t-shirt and bag. And you know, that's a deal if I ever seen one, right? Aside from that, you'll also, you know, you can also bid on a signed copy, and these are hard to get because, you know, Kieu Chinh was talking about how packed the bookstore was, and they only had 200 copies, and, you know, it's hard to get a signed copy, right? Like I got an Amazon copy of the book for my mom, and she was like, wait, it's not signed by Kieu Chinh? Like, I thought you were on a show with her. So, you know, if you'd like a signed copy, go ahead and bid here on 32auctions.com. There's also a bundle that we're offering tonight of Kieu Chin's book, as well as Viet's book, The Refugees, this best-selling short story collection. They're both going to be signed, and they can both be yours. Just go ahead and bid. And we also have a couple of copies of The Committed that are signed, and those are running out real quick. So be sure to check that out. And if you have any questions about the auction or about fundraising or about DVAN, feel free to let us know. I want to take this quick moment now to introduce Eric Nguyen, who is the editor-in-chief for Diacritics, a blog that highlights art, literature, and stories from writers, artists, and culture makers from the amazing Southeast Asian diaspora on and from all shores. Eric is also the author of his debut novel, Things We Lost to the Water, which has been named to one of the 15 books to watch by the New York Times, and also to President Obama's summer 2021 reading list. He's going to be telling us about the Diacritics book spotlight that we have for the show tonight. So if y'all, without further ado, please welcome Eric Nguyen.
Hi, I'm Eric. I am the editor-in-chief of Diacritics. We're the blog publication of the Diasporic Vietnamese Artist Network, and you can find creative fiction, poetry, essays on our website, so make sure to visit it. And this month, I'm recommending Dear Diaspora by Susan Nguyen. It's a poetry collection, her first poetry collection. And through the character of Susan Nguyen reckons with the diasporic loss through the lens of girlhood. As her character dreams of Lucy Liu, freckles, and wonders at the miracles of the natural world, she also tries to understand the losses at the center of her Vietnamese American experience, meaning the loss of home, the loss of language, the loss of stories, and for Susie in particular, the disappearance of a father, which informs Dear Diaspora is a search for ecstasy and answers through the complex landscape of inherited grief. This is a powerful debut to add to the Vietnamese American poetic canon. And again, it's Dear Diaspora by Susan Nguyen.
Thank you so much, Eric. And we are partnered with East Wind Books of Berkeley, who is our local bookstore partner. So you can visit them at asiabookcenter.com to get your copy of Dear Diaspora by Susan Nguyen. Now I have a 10% discount, and I know how much y'all love discounts, right? And also, if you're interested in hearing more of these stories by diasporic Vietnamese and Southeast Asian artists, writers, culture producers, please visit diacritics.org as well as DVAN.org for more information. One more quick plug before we bring it back to the Q&A. And I know that we might not get to all of the questions that y'all have during the Q&A. We only got about 10-15 minutes left, right? But if you want to continue this conversation, go on ahead to tinyurl.com/accented. You can purchase a VIP ticket, and we can have a couple of more opportunities for you to get engaged in the conversation with our incredible panelists tonight, right? So I would like to welcome back our hosts and the panelists. So y'all give me a quick second to bring them back on the screen. How's everyone? Did you refill your drinks? Are you hydrated? How's everyone doing? Kìu Chinh, I know you're on, I think you're on your phone right now. You're like about to go into an award show. So hopefully you're doing okay. They got the AC on in the car, right? Okay, let me unmute you really quickly too. Kìu Chinh, how are you doing?
Yeah. I'm fine, thank you. Thank you, Philip. This is a wonderful show. I enjoyed that very much. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, and we are so, thank you for coming back the second time on the show. So we're really grateful for that. And you talked a lot about being an artist in exile, right? Or nghệ sĩ, lưu vong. And this term lưu vong comes up a lot. Earlier to prep for the show, I was watching your interview with on the Jimmy show, right? Just trying to work on my Vietnamese because I knew you were coming on. And this idea of lưu vong, you kind of alluded to it, how you first came into the South, right, before the end of the war, and then from Vietnam, you came to the United States, and you talk a lot about being an exilic artist. I want to actually pitch this question to both Jes and Isa. In your work, has this theme of exile, of being in a home away from home, kind of come up through your work, or if it's been your inspiration at all, or if it hasn't, where have you kind of seen it throughout the cinematic film industry or the cinematic industry? Maybe I'll pass it to Isa first, since you've been in the game for a while now with Valor, right?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question, because I think that this is my home. This is where I am, is my home. But of course, Vietnam is like a distant, I don't know, it's also home, but it's kind of like home in the past. I think that it's interesting. Yeah, I don't feel that concept of being exiled like Kieu Chinh does, I guess. But I feel like this is my home. I have to protect it. I have to build it. I have to created, I have to protect it. Yeah, so it's yeah, that's not the concept that I work around, but I think that I built it from the point that this is my home and that I want to make it better for myself and for the generations to come. So so I hope I answer your questions about it. So a lot of yeah, when I create the programs, I think about the audience here, I think about the artists here, yeah, and how can we continue what we do to make a better home.
Thanks for that, Lisa. Jes, on exile.
I mean, I was technically born in Canada, but I was raised in the States. It's complicated. Like for me, yeah, here is home. I mean, these are conversations I've always had with my parents. That like, there's always going to be like a clear tie to the homeland. But like even my father, like when we have these conversations, like he recognizes he's been in the United States more than he's lived in Vietnam at this point. But he also recognizes that the country as it is now, it's not the country that he left. So, it's a different world now. But he also he's an anomaly for like someone his age. He's in his 60s and stuff. And I know he does not have any anger or resentment personally, and he actually sees a bright future. But I don't think there's always going to be some type of tie to it. But he recognizes like the United States is his home, and that's sort of how I view it in his perspective, in a sense. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
I think it kind of does, right? Like this kind of weird place that we're in terms of like home, this idea of quê hương that maybe our parents talk about, right? And then just to think about how kind of Kieu Chinh framed being exilic, right? Maybe Envy, you have some insight to throw in here.
Well, I came when I was 4 years old, so I don't feel the concept of exile in the same way because I don't have the same relationship to Vietnam that Kieu Chinh has, or whoever grew up in that country and had their adulthood there. But I edited a book called The Displaced, and I think feeling displaced is how I would describe myself because no matter where I am, I feel a little bit out of place, whether it's here in the United States or even when I go back to Vietnam. I don't feel like I'm going home. I feel like I'm going to a place that's important to me, but a place in which I don't quite fit in either. And so the feeling of being displaced is something that a lot of people would not want to feel. But for me, it's been very productive as a writer to always feel slightly out of place. I can always look at every place from two directions. And it's also, I think, important for those of us who have been displaced, whether it's by becoming an exile or a refugee or an immigrant, to hang on to some memory of that feeling. Because that means that when we see other people who are being displaced today, we'll feel some empathy for what they're going through. Instead of being like some of these Vietnamese refugees who say, well, we're the good refugees, those are the bad refugees, we shouldn't let them in. I mean, that they feel too comfortable, they feel too at home where they're at, and that's dangerous as well. So there are tragic dimensions to being displaced, but there are some important ethical aspects of being displaced we should hang on to as well.
I also want to add too, and that there's not to go too deep into politics, even the people who do feel like some resentment too, some of them still want to go back to Vietnam and die there or be buried there, which is, there's sort of an irony, but it just shows like their heart is still to, their former home country in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Kieu Chinh?
Yeah, actually, many people do not agree that I use the title of my memoir. This is Kieu Chinh, an artist in exile. Actually, I'm now living in America. I'm now a U.S. citizen. But I always see my root as a Vietnamese. I am a Vietnamese. So the word exile, physically, I'm not exiled, but mentally, I'm an exile. Because of mentally, I'm still thinking of back to my country, that I am a Vietnamese. That is mentally. but physically I'm now a US citizen living in the United States. So, but like Viet Nguyen mentioned, that I have spent almost 40 years of my life in Vietnam. And when I left Vietnam, for 20 years, Vietnam had become another world to me. There's a bamboo curtain. Since the bamboo curtain shut down, that I cannot go home, or I cannot. I see that I am in exile, away from my country. So, but now the situation changed a little bit. The word exile might be acceptable for some people, but some doesn't agree. But to me, my explanation is, yes, I am in exile. Physically, I'm not. I'm now American citizen living in America, but mentally, I am still a Vietnamese, an exile. So therefore, for my generation, most of the people of my ages would feel different from the younger generation.
If you were, when you go back to Vietnam, Kieu Chinh, would they consider you a Viet Kieu then?
Oh yes, yes.
Even if you're the, you're Kieu Chinh.
Yeah, they say Viet Kieu. It's just funny. When I check in at the hotel, they said, "Can I see your passport, Viet Kieu?" So so therefore I say that physically, I'm not an exile, but mentally, yes.
Right, and that's so interesting too. I would be surprised. I feel like you could just show your IMDb page and they'd know who you are anywhere. But
yeah,
one of the questions that we got from the audience is, will the Vietnamese film industry ever reach the level of success that the South Korean industry has achieved? And is this even possible given the limitations that filmmakers can face working in a communist country, right? Before I pass it to you all to answer this question, maybe this one will probably go to Isa, you first. I want to play for the audience the trailer for Viet Film Fest, because I know that this year y'all feature films that are both diasporically Vietnamese but also filmed and produced in the mainland, right? So the trailer for Viet Film Fest. Isa, how would you answer this question about the future of the Vietnamese film industry?
We still have a long way to go compared to, you said, Korean cinema. Yeah, we still have a long way to go, and the COVID situation is not helping at all. It's shut down a lot of cinemas houses over there, a lot of theaters, and a lot of productions got on hold. And but it's with the censorship board being active right now, and I just there was just a controversy. I think a few weeks ago when a couple of weeks ago, the film Taste V, directed by Lê Bảo, got the censorship board didn't want it to be in Busan Film Festival, and it's got pulled out from it's got rejected from being shown in the theaters in Vietnam. So a lot of filmmakers, including Chen Hung from France, and a lot of filmmakers from Hanoi, from Saigon, they got on Zoom and they voiced their concern. So there is a problem there, right, with the censorship board, and but also, but you can see that we're moving, I think, compared to the 1980s, 1990s, we have more productions. We have more filmmakers of different generations, of younger generations. And you can see that there are more productions being made as well, and with more, with different genres and so you can see that it's very vibrant in Vietnam, but at the same time it's faced a lot of difficulties right now, and so I think we will have, it will take some time. It will take time.
Issa's definitely, I think, more in tune with the Vietnamese film industry. But I do agree, it's going to depend, like anything can happen, anything can change, whether it's censorship or, because you got to keep in mind, like Korea was under, like, I mean, it was under dictatorship at one point in their history. So it's going to be into whatever the flow of history dictates it. And Korea ended up surpassing several film industries that were definitely ahead of them. Like even within the last 10 years, I was watching a K-drama, rewatching a K-drama, Coffee Prince, and then watching another K-drama now, and there's a vast like production value difference. Now we could possibly see that in terms of quality as well, and it's growing really fast in Vietnam. So I think it's going to be like, we'll see what happens.
Right, and I think, you know,
I think it's
go
like
ahead.
a decade, Jess, that it takes a long time. Is could be decades.
Yeah.
I think.
We are on Q&A.
But
Go on, Rachel.
Kieu Chinh is waiting to receive an award at a festival right now. So sorry for interrupting. Pass it back to you, Issa. So it's been decades.
Yeah, take decades. It's because you know, films is an art. So I think you take time to learn the art. It takes time to, and it's also is requires a teamwork. It's not just the director who can create the film, but you have to have the technicians, you have to have the sound technicians, you have to have editors, you have to have script writers, you have to have the right makeup artists. So it takes so much work, so much. So but I'm optimistic too. I think that is moving to the right directions. We start seeing different waves of filmmakers. We see that a film called Ram that also was shown in Busan, I think last year, that won an award, and it's very fresh. And so I am optimistic, but it will take time. Yeah, it's not gonna be anytime soon. We compare to the Korean cinema.
Right. I mean, I thought Ram was awesome. And, you know, I know the second season of Rap Viet just came out this past week, right? And y'all also, one of the feature films at the Viet Film Fest was Bo Yeah, which the YouTube series I shared with my parents, and it was incredibly moving right in there. I think refugees living in exile, so to say, right? There's a question from the audience about, you know, was there a time any of you called out a production for something racist against Vietnamese or Asian folks, right? And were you successful in getting that changed or taken out in terms of different stereotypes, right? I'll pass this one first to you, Kieu Chinh. You know, in your story career, have you had to ask folks to change a character or a representation of against Asian or Vietnamese folks?
I wasn't got into that position. So honestly, I don't know. It wasn't happened to me.
What about you, Isa or Jess, during your time in the industry?
Short answer, yes and no. Sometimes it's successful, and then sometimes you get a lot or varying levels of pushback, and it can be very mentally draining, to be quite frank, especially if you're in a consulting position as well, is that you have to validate your lived experience. You know, I know like we're not always right, but then there's some things that are hard right, and you have to like keep fighting for it, and it's like, to be frank, it's tiring. But I mean, there are opportunities where like you get to like have this open conversation, and they'll be like, yeah, okay, we'll do it. But I mean, I can't really talk too much about like other people's experience, but you know, I have heard like actors, you know, having to like put in their own knowledge and say, no, like that's not right. And it's not their job. So, but it also shows that like if there's not enough people behind the scenes, you know, that's just how it goes.
Yeah, thanks for that. And you know, we're running a little short on time, right? So we want to also save some questions for the, you know, y'all can still sign up to come to the VIP after party. But my last question for you all, it comes from Adele Ray, who I know is a Vietnamese woman filmmaker, right? She has a couple of questions, and thanks Kieu Chinh, Isa, and Jess for the legacy from your experience and wisdom in the industry, what advice can you give to those struggling to get their stories developed, supported, produced, and heard? As well as how do we get a pipeline for success for folks to tell their stories, right? So what advice can you give, and how is it, or is there a way for us to build that pipeline out? I'll pass it to you first, Jess.
In building that pipeline, man, there's a lot of there's a lot of opportunities for like, you know, submit yourself to script competitions if you're, you know, a writer, getting your work out there and keep on writing. I don't know if it's like it's not as simple as I'm putting it out there. It's always about like working on your craft. And I also know, I think it was Adele Ray that brought up like it's hard to like get money, and I totally agree on that. And grants are like more work than they're worth. I've definitely been on that side of things as well. But I guess it's just like you know, keep applying to programs, because those programs will provide opportunities. And don't just apply one time, you know, apply multiple times, because you're not the same writer as you were in the past. So it's just something to keep in mind. And these competitions, whether it's the writing scholarship or the studio programs, they're like highly competitive, you know, and it's not easy, but just keep pounding the payment into these pipeline programs. And there are more programs developing, and there's more, the studios are developing more programs into you know, creating opportunities for writers, especially writers of color or other marginalized communities. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, definitely, for sure. Hopefully to Adele too. To Isa?
I'd like to add that I think well, try to go to film festivals and attend the networking events. Yeah, sometimes you can meet hopefully investors or prospective distributors there. That's one thing I really hope that Viet Film Fest could bring to the filmmakers, to bring the network that the filmmakers need. Yeah, but I realize that it is very tough to get finance for films, and I have deep respect for artists who are very persistent to work on their stories. Yeah, so I think look out for grants, apply, and also I think for grants, I think a lot of them look for unique stories also, and to see what you have in terms of like what kind of backup resources that you have, what kind of documents that you have in your pocket, so that they they could see the stories. Yeah, I think it's definitely is a challenging situation for the artists in terms of getting finance for their films. But I hope that you can find ways in different venues and yeah, try to do networking. And I think that's one of the ways.
Thank you for that, Isa, and thank you, Jess. Pass it to you, Viet.
All right. Well, Nyung Jung asked how the community can help with donations, and of course, you can always donate to DVAN. You can donate to VALA. I'm not sure if CAPE is accepting donations. They are, and the reason
Always.
yeah, like people who are not in the film industry obviously focus on the big successes and what makes it to the headline news and everything. But the reality is that so many of the big stars today got their start doing very small kinds of things. So I think about the filmmaker Justin Lin doing Fast and Furious and Star Trek, but he got his start as a UCLA student in an Asian American Studies program. So it's these kind of community-based programs that have been important in nurturing the next generation of talent. And sometimes it takes 20, 30, 40 years for those students to go on to become these A-list kinds of people, just as it took South Korea about 30 years from the end of military dictatorship in the late 1980s to being able to make movies, not Squid Game, that would take about 40 years, but being able to make the movies from about 10 or 15 years ago when we really started noticing South Korean cinema. And it was a collective effort. It required building the country's wealth. It required the government coming down with a strong government policy to promote Korean cinema and Korean cultural products like K-pop. And then, of course, it also required artistic freedom to give artists the space to do whatever it is that they wanted to do. For us in the Vietnamese American community, the Vietnamese diasporic community, we can't do all those kinds of things, but we can support our artists and we can encourage them by donating, by coming to their shows, coming to their movies, buying their books. An Artist in Exile. And I just have to say, I don't want to be totally superficial, noting everything that Asian American and Vietnamese American women have to go through, being exiles, being refugees, dealing with Vietnamese men. Okay, I apologize to Vietnamese men for all the terrible things that we have done and are doing today. But Go Kyiu Chinh,
yeah,
outside of all those things, you look good. You have looked
thank
good
you.
being a refugee in exile for the past 45 years. All right, you have shown us that you can overcome all kinds of obstacles and make a career for yourself as an independent woman and look good. So I want to make sure we acknowledge
Thank
that.
you.
And
Thank you so much, Bill.
I have put the English version in my Amazon shopping cart. Hopefully there'll be other venues besides Amazon we can buy the English edition from Artist in Exile. But thanks so much, Go Kyiu Chinh, for being with us tonight. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Isa, for being with us too. Go Kyiu Chinh, I know you're about to receive something important. I can't say what it is, but congratulations for that. And thanks to all of you out there in the audience for being with us. I will see you in just a few minutes in the VIP room, if you happen to be a VIP. Otherwise, I'll see you at the next episode of Accented. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Viet. Thank you so much. Thank you, Philip and Isa and Jess. I am honored. Thank you so much for all your kind words. Thank you.